issue 4 of Simply Lettering, my masterclass is all about working with your Brother ScanNCut. Now this may be a little bit daunting for you, so I want to take it right back to basics and show you how to go from lettering on paper into producing beautiful things with vinyl, making things like home decor with stencils that you've all done with your own hand lettering. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is set out our lettering. So this can be done onto a plain piece of paper. Don't forget to use smooth paper for your brush pen so that you don't damage and fray the nibs. And you need a reasonably dark colour ink pen as well. So the darker the better, ideally black. I'm going to use purple, one of my favourite colours, and it's one that I often use. So all you need to do is simply brush letter your words. Now it doesn't matter whether you use a brush pen for this or whether you do faux lettering. I'm going to use the word brother, so in exactly the same way as you usually would. I'm not leaving any gaps at this stage. When we're working with our doormat that's in the masterclass, you may notice that we actually need to then add in either some gaps to our lettering or go in afterwards and add some gaps with some little bits of white paper. The reason for this is because if you're creating a stencil, as you probably know from looking at previous stencils, you need to have small gaps so that the little bits don't fall out, which would be inside the O there. So if you're really clever, which I'm really not at this, you can leave those gaps as you're writing. But for this instance, we're cutting out with vinyl, so we can just go ahead and write our entire word. So I've made sure it's really nice and large as well. So if we look at that, I'm looking at quite a couple of inches, 3 inches or so tall for each letter. Do it as large as you can. You can easily bring it down smaller there. So now we've got this. What we're going to do is pop it inside our scanning mat. So this is one that doesn't have a grid on, and it has a clear protective layer over the top. So it doesn't matter which way you put this in, pop this inside, and we're now going to feed that into the machine and transfer our own hand lettering into the Brother ScanNCut. So I've got my ScanNCut machine here all set up and ready to go. The power's on. I've got a cutting blade in there. This is just a standard blade. I've just turned the power on and I'm on my welcome screen here. So I'm using the CM900. These instructions are going to be fairly similar for all of the models that you may have at home. So here's the piece that we just lettered and we put into our clear scanning mat. So we're simply going to first of all load our mat as you usually would, popping it in with the arrow facing forward, just lining it up against the guidelines on the side of the machine, so making sure that it's not at an angle at all. I'm going to press this grid button here and this will just feed my mat in. Now if your mat is at an angle at that stage, that will then return the mat to you so you can straighten that up. The best thing to do is let the machine take it. Don't try pushing it in at all because it will take it nice and straight. So now we're going to choose the scan option here, and what I want to do is I don't want to cut out from this mat. I want to scan this so it saves the image on my machine so I can play with it later, which we'll do in a little while. So I'm going to select this middle option, which is scan to cut data. Okay, so it's giving you a little bit of instruction on the screen there, but essentially you've got the nice green button, just press that, that will feed the mat through and that will scan your image, taking this dark area as the cut lines. So let's let that do its thing. So after your machine has recognised your scanned image, you'll see it will appear on your screen like this. I have pressed the grid button again, so I've ejected my mat now, so that's out of my way. Everything is stored here. So what I now need to do is recognise the cut lines or the outer area of this image. So what I'm going to do is, if I wanted to cut this out, almost say like a sticker, and leave the insides of the letters intact, I could choose this outer line, but I want to make sure everything is cut out. So I'm going to choose this one, which cuts both the inside and the outside of everything, but leaving it all as one piece. You have the option to zoom in and select the areas there that you want to cut. So I'm going to zoom in closer to the word. That just means that any edges of the page that were detected aren't taken into account. So then what I can do is I can preview what it's doing for me. So I can have a look and I say, yes, that looks like it's the black lines there are going around my letters in all the right places. So when you're happy with that, and you can absolutely have a play with the other two options as well if you want to, you can go in and save this. If you've used a lighter colour pen, or you find that not all your lines are being picked up, you can go here and you can have a look at the scale of black that's being detected there. Okay, I'm going to go back because I'm absolutely happy with what it's got. So just save this and it will say it's saving to your machine there. So you've got the option of going to canvas. This is on your laptop. You've got other USB options, but I want to choose machine. And it will give you a number, a file number there. So press OK, and you'll now find that that is inside your machine's memory. The way to find that, so I can go to home, just delete that because you've saved it now, that's fine. If you go into your patterns and into your saved data to your machine, what I tend to do, these are in order of when you've saved them, so I've got some right back from a long time ago. So I'm going to go up to the last page and I can see there that I've got my brother there, so I can click on that and start using it straight away. There we go. So now I've got this, I need to transform this to use it ready for vinyl, ready to cut out a stencil, whatever it may be. Today we're going to be looking at vinyl because one of the important things is going to be flipping this image if you want to use it with, say, an iron-on vinyl. The reason being that an iron-on vinyl will have a clear backing on the front of the vinyl, so you'll need to cut it from the reverse. This clear backing you can iron through. So what we're going to do first of all is make sure that we select everything with these red squares. So we want to select them all. And then we want to do this square down here. Now this red block with the squares in, this groups everything. This is really important. Make sure it's one of the first things you do before you move anything around, because that's just going to group the entire image for you. Now you can, if you want to, just zoom in as well, and you can zoom in even further, just to make sure that all your cut lines are where you expect them to be. You've got no gaps or anything. Okay, so that's just something I like to double check and do while I'm at this stage. It's the easiest way to see it. So I can now move this about and I can resize it. So resizing is this square with the arrows. Just measure the item that this is going on to with a ruler, because your grid lines here are inch squares. This represents your mat here. So if you imagine this is your 12 by 12 mat, and this at the moment, if I click on here, it will tell me how tall and how wide it is. So at the moment we can actually just turn this by 90 degrees so it's more where we expect it to be there, straight, and we can say it's now so just over 6.5 inches wide. If this was going on to the little hat that I did, we'd need to bring this down. Now you'll notice as you bring these down in width, the height is also going down. It's keeping it to scale. If for any reason you feel like you want to shrink this by one orientation but not the other, you can click this to sort of ungroup them. So we could then bring the width up or down and the height would remain the same, and vice versa. But I keep that unclicked for now so it's all to scale. So when you're happy with the size of everything, you can also duplicate them here as well if you're doing a number of things. So let's have a look. We've just done 3, and you can see you can grab and drag 3 of those. You can also delete elements as well really easily just by clicking on them. So it really is a click and grab and then just drag things where you need. So I've got my image there. I'm happy with that. The only thing that I need to do now is flip that round if I want to put it onto iron-on vinyl. So what I'm going to do is come back into the resizing, and you can see here we've got this triangle with the dotted line in the middle. This is how you flip, so that is now completely reversed and okay. So that is backwards. So it's much easier to check your image while it's forwards. It will make more sense to you to have a look at everything while it's the right way round, and make this one of your last things you do. So press OK. We've now got that. That is ready to cut, or ready to, if we wanted to maybe draw that with our machine, we can do that as well. So I'm going to press OK, and these are our options. Now, before I insert my mat, which I'm going to do in a moment, I'm just going to show you your settings. If you are doing an iron-on vinyl, what you need to do is alter your settings. So my cut pressure would normally be on 1 if I was cutting paper and cardstock. Because I don't want to cut down into this vinyl all the way through, I'm going to lessen my cut pressure or lessen my cut pressure to -2. And then I'm also going to adjust my blade as well, which I'll show you in just a second. So press OK. Let's have a look at loading this mat and adjusting our blade now. So I've got my standard mat here now, and as you can see, it's really quite sticky. I've taken the clear backing off. I've got my iron-on vinyl. Now, I was talking to you about this vinyl having the coating, the clear coating on it that we put down onto the mat. So this is the iron-on coating. That just means that you can apply the iron on top of this, and we're then pressing our design into our material here. So this has like a heat protection property to it. So this is going to be the lowest layer. It's going to go onto our mat. So I'm going to place that around the area. If I refer to my screen here, I can count the grid marks if I want to, as to whereabouts I've positioned this, and then I can have a look on my mat and see whereabouts I need my vinyl to be. Alternatively, you can do it the other way. You can position your vinyl where's best for you, and you can move around on the screen where you need to, so the two link up. So I'm just pressing this down as hard as possible all over my sticky mat, making sure that all the edges are stuck down. The last thing we want to do is to be cutting into this and it start moving around. So I've got quite a new stick on my mat, so that has stuck fast. That's lovely. Now what I need to do is check the blade. So by lifting up this grey lever, we're just going to have a look at the settings here. Now usually I would cut with my machine on around 7 or 8 if I was cutting cardstock. So simply by twisting this grey bottom area here, you can see the numbers, you go up and down. So we're going to cut on around about 5 for this. I've actually got a new blade in here, so I know that's quite sharp. It's always best actually, if you're not sure with your machine, cut at a lower number. You can always re-go over. Because of how precise the machine is, you can absolutely go over the exact lines again, over and over again, until you get the right amount of cut. Now, you don't want to cut through the clear backing. This is why we've lessened that pressure. We've lowered our blade, or rather heightened our blade, lowered the number, so that we cut only through this top silver layer. So now to insert your mat. Your mat has arrows on both ends, so you can insert it either way. And we're going to do it in exactly the same way as we did with that clear scanning mat. So we're just going to introduce the top of the mat into the rollers, not pressing at all, not using too much pressure at all, and then just press the feed button there, and that will take it and that will make sure it's straight. So again, making sure all your edges are straight. Don't press your vinyl across here though. If you're pressing down on here, you're actually pressing down on the machine here on the base, and you can do some damage there. So all we're going to do now is take a deep breath and choose cut. That will tell you how long this is going to cut for, and press the play pause button. This will go ahead and cut into your vinyl. So I've removed my vinyl sheet from my machine, and what I've been doing is something called weeding, which is where you're taking away the excess. As you can see, I've gone around the edge. I've taken the entire piece from around the edge out, and the last pieces are these pieces from in the centres of the word. So they're an excess, you can take them out. It's best to use something like a pair of tweezers or a pokey tool for that. So now I'm left with my clear backing sheet and my vinyl on the top. So if I bring in our original, this is what we wrote in the first place. We have now got, slightly resized, but we've got our word brother in a beautiful silver vinyl. Of course, there's many different colours on the market. We can now place that onto our material. We can iron that on and then lift off and leave the vinyl down. So that's how you go from your hand lettering to a beautiful piece of vinyl in whatever word you want.